We learned something the hard way about this Sprinter van on our way home from Oregon recently. It didn't make it home. And it's been 2 months since it's been on the dirt. And since then, well, we've had some trials and tribulations, but we've had some great work done to the van. And today's gonna be its shakedown run. And I think this is gonna go better than it did in Oregon. But before we share with you the incredible story and journey, there's some comedy in there as well, and some triumphs and some tragedies. I want to recap what the trip in Oregon was like. And I want you to pay close attention as I'm showing you some of this footage on just how easy those trails were. Have you ever been to a part of the country you've never been to before that totally surprised you? A place so filled with wonder and beauty that you never wanted to leave? That's exactly how Regina and I felt about our adventure into the mesmerizing Owyhee Canyon in eastern Oregon, where we're going to bring you along over the next few days as we head deep off the grid in an off-road vehicle that's different from anything we've ever driven on the trail. In this adventure, we drive a four-wheel drive Sprinter van to see how it handles as we explore the back roads and trails of eastern Oregon. And we had some pleasant surprises and more than a few challenges along the way. We also met up with some good friends for the first part of this trip, traversed some trails with geological wonders. We spent our nights at some of the most spectacular remote campsites and soaked in the remarkable beauty of it all. Join us on this Owyhee Canyon off-grid adventure, one we will never forget, and find out if our adventure van can really boldly go where no one has gone before. Wow, these new tire deflators air down extremely fast, and we'll talk about those and some of the things that have been done to the van. But that trip in Oregon, what an incredible adventure. But our journey home from Oregon was not so amazing. The van broke down and left us stranded on the side of the road. It took some critical damage on those easy trails. And getting this van to a repair shop and another repair shop, and then finally getting it down here, how we got home was almost comical. But some of the folks that we met along the way were amazing, and it's really kind of renewed our faith in humanity. There are some awesome people out there. So before we share this entire story with you guys, we're gonna go hit the trail. We're gonna get this thing dirty. We're gonna go find camp, and then we'll talk more about how we got home. Today we are heading for the hills just south of Idlewild, California to escape this summer heat in hopes of finding a nice quiet camp spot higher in elevation with some cooler temperatures. Thomas Mountain Trail is a local favorite trail of ours that is mostly easy, although the recent heavy rains here in Southern California have washed out a few sections of the trail and made it a little more rutted out than normal, but we should be fine in the van. This trail has some spectacular mountain views along the way, plenty of remote camping options, and while on a weekend it can be a little busy up here, come out here on a weekday like we are doing today, and you probably won't encounter anyone. We haven't been up here in over a year, and as we are soaking in the views and climbing up the mountain, we are asking ourselves, why don't we come up here more often? It's a beautiful trail and a quick getaway. So far, the van is managing this trail with no issues. Driving this Sprinter van has been interesting and still taking a bit of getting used to. It's a heavy vehicle and it's top heavy, so we find ourselves traveling at a much slower pace than we would if we were in the Jeep. And honestly, on a day like today, that's okay because we are in no rush. But I think when it's time to plan another trip in the van, I'll have to take the slower pace into consideration when I'm sorting out the time and distance. For years I've been traveling in the Jeep. I'm usually pretty good at calculating how much time it will take us to traverse a certain amount of area, but with the van's pace, I'll have to account for some longer times on the dirt. While the van is slow and big, the one thing we have really come to like about it is the views it allows for. We are sitting up higher and we have this massive front window to enjoy our surroundings from. So on a day like today, with a trail like this, the van can be a good option. When we want to get after it a bit more on some moderate and difficult trails and really get remote, well, I think that's when the Jeep and trailer combination will be our vehicle of choice. I've always enjoyed having adventures in different vehicle platforms, and we are just getting to know this van, and over time, I think our confidence will grow.
All right, we've been climbing up the mountain here. We're just under 6,000 feet of elevation. It's cooled off a lot, which is really nice. Found this camp spot here. It's got a beautiful view of the mountains back there in the background, but the flies are a little bit thick, and we don't really have a whole lot of protection if it decides to get windy. There's another spot right over here, but kind of the same deal. So we're gonna mark these. We're gonna keep on going because I think there's some better spots up there, and maybe with a few less flies. Fingers crossed. All right, guys, you may just have seen that departure angle in action, and we broke off this little plastic piece right here, and this goes to the hose holder for the gray water tank. Oh, it looks like this might just pop back on. We might get lucky here. Let's see. Oh yeah.
Thankfully, this was an easy fix, but I think this whole tube assembly will be something that I remove altogether. And there are a few other items that kind of hang low on the van that I think can also be repositioned. Something I'll be working on over time. Okay, just a bit farther down the trail, and we should have a couple other campsites to pick from.
All right, everyone, we made it to camp for the night, and our favorite spot out here was taken, but this one is a good spot. It's nice and quiet, secluded, and it's a yellow post spot, so you get a picnic table and you get a fire ring. I still need to level out the van, and it's a little slow going getting here. I don't think, it's not Jeep capable, and I think we were maybe a little gun shy through some of the little ruts and stuff, but it's a good drive up here. We'll tell you more about what happened here as we get dinner going, but just a quick walk around about where we're at. If you look off in the distance here, you see that right through those trees is a beautiful mountain view back there, guys. So we're going to enjoy that tonight, and Rocket's going to enjoy running around and checking out all the smells. He's a little old, and he doesn't hear anymore, and so he doesn't come on command like he used to, but he's always been really good about being right next to me anytime we're hiking or camping. So he'll enjoy the night. He'll wear himself out. He'll probably go to bed a little early. Not a bad night.
No, it's actually beautiful, minus the bugs, although they're not as bad as they were earlier.
Not as bad. I don't remember this place being as scorched as it is. I wonder how recent this fire is, but it's
Yeah.
pretty bad actually.
Although that one tree looks kind of cool. It's like black. It's like
Yeah.
carbon or something.
I mean, it's sad, but it looks cool.
It's sad, but it looks cool.
Okay, so I guess we should start telling the story. You're going to hear Rocket. He's running around sniffing and just having a ball.
good time.
Let's talk about what the van isn't. It's not
A Jeep.
a
It
Jeep.
is not a Jeep.
It's not a Jeep. It's not a Ram Power Wagon.
Nope.
You
It's
know,
a van.
It's a van. And the intent with the van for us is to do kind of the casual touristy things.
Yeah.
Going to national parks and going to a beach and camping in a campground.
Yeah, and do some forest roads and get
Yeah.
a little bit off the grid.
Right, but it's not a replacement. I mean, look,
It's not a rock crawler
our Jeep and Patriot Campers trailer have taken us to
Oh, some incredible places
incredible places.
that you can't get to with a car
Right.
or a van.
And if we would have known now what,
Hindsight.
what happened in Oregon, we
Yep.
probably would have taken the Jeep and the Patriot Campers trailer.
Or we would have done some things to the van
Yeah.
before.
So let's talk about the breakdown. Let's talk about that process, and then
Are we going to break down the breakdown?
Yeah, we're gonna break down the breakdown, and then you're gonna cook dinner. Yep.
Yeah.
And then we'll figure out when we're gonna tell the success story, because there is a
There's
silver.
good light at the end of the tunnel.
There is light at the end of
silver
the tunnel.
linings. There's always a silver lining. Sometimes you just got to dig really deep for it, but
Yeah.
there's always a silver lining.
So we had that amazing trip in the Oahe Canyon in Oregon.
Yeah.
Epic.
That was probably one of the best. Well, next to Australia,
Yeah.
it was probably one of the best trips.
Pretty incredible place.
Yeah.
We're going back.
Yeah.
We didn't think anything. I mean, everything that we drove on was nice and easy. At least that's what
Yeah.
we thought. There were a couple spots where
Yeah, it was a little rutted, but and then the mud at first,
Yeah.
but that it dried up and went away,
Right.
and it was all good.
so we didn't think we broke anything.
No.
Well, we were on our way home. We were only about 6
close.
hours out of Oahe Canyon, and we had just gone
Yeah.
through Burns, Oregon.
Yep.
We had fueled up,
Bought groceries.
bought
filled up our
groceries,
fridge.
because we still had a
Yeah.
couple more days of camping to do.
Yeah. And we were going to go visit my aunt in Northern California.
Right.
We had plans.
Yeah. And then all of a sudden we start hearing this whining noise.
Yep.
About 3 miles out of town, and then the van took a lurch and went, and we're like,
Yeah.
whoa, pulled right over.
Yep.
And I instantly started inspecting. I was trying to figure out because initially I thought maybe there was a rock in the brake or something like that. I mean, it wasn't going on for very long. It was just like,
Yeah.
we were just listening. Probably should have pulled over a little sooner, although I don't think at this point it would have mattered.
Nope, not knowing what we know now.
Yeah. So what had happened is, and this is a weak point in the Sprinter van, the 4x4 Sprinter van, differential cover we had scraped it somewhere along the way on a rock.
Barely. Just
Barely scraped it. And it was enough that it had peeled back and all the differential fluid had drained out
Which
of
is
it.
weird because we never noticed fluid.
Correct.
And we never saw fluid anywhere.
Yeah. So it was completely dry. It was burned up.
bone dry.
And it was smoking hot. Like, woo, it was
Like
hot.
the coating on the outside had bubbled.
Well, all the mud on there was just burnt, and it was
gross.
smoking, and we were done. So we called our roadside assistance, and within 15 minutes, they had somebody
Oh, yeah,
there.
They did. That was awesome.
A nice tow truck driver came and picked us up and took us back 3 miles to the town we were just at,
Burns.
and dropped us off at the truck stop. And
Yeah.
the super nice people,
Hilda and Mike, who are the owners,
incredible.
are just they were lifesavers.
Yeah.
I mean, we were like, what are we going to do? And Burns is like population 3,400-ish.
Very small town.
Very small town.
So we pulled in there, and they said, "Hey, we can look at it first thing in the morning." It was a little late in the afternoon.
Yep.
Hilda offered to drive us to the nearest hotel. It was a small little Best Western hotel, but I mean, who does
Yeah,
that?
Right?
Like,
Nobody in San Diego does that for you.
what an angel! Because
Yeah.
it was not like there were any Uber or taxis in this very
there
small
was one
town.
taxi, and she was kind enough to
Yeah,
just drive us, so we didn't
yeah,
have to deal
she's
with
like,
it.
"Well, I'll just drive you." And so we
Yeah.
stayed the night at that hotel, and ate some pretty bad pizza.
Oh, it was awful.
It was pretty bad pizza.
Horrible pizza.
But the next morning, Hilda picked us up again. Such a sweetheart.
I know. She totally didn't have to do this.
So she picked us up after they had inspected the van.
Well, we should probably back up for a second. So we broke down. You said we were a few hours out of the Owahis, but before we got to that town, there had been nothing.
Oh yeah, we were remote.
Nothing for hundreds of miles.
Yeah, we were very remote.
No cell reception. I think we passed one UPS truck, which was a big monster UPS truck.
As far as breakdowns go, we broke down in a great spot. Honestly.
Silver linings.
Sort of. Yeah. And the great thing is you and I were smiling and laughing the whole time. I mean, honestly, we could have been like mad and upset or whatever, but we were just
I don't know if we were laughing, but
we were trying to figure out how to
we were taking it in stride.
We were trying to figure out how to get over it. I mean, we just had an incredible adventure. All right. So, Hilda takes us to the shop. Her husband Mike owns the shop, and basically he told us everything that I just told you. The internals of the differential were toast. There was metal shavings.
Yep.
There was no fluid. The problem was that they couldn't fix it
because of the warranty.
And they said that they just said Mercedes is a pretty challenging vehicle to work on, and so they were going to do that. So, on the phone with roadside assistance again, because they're supposed to take us to a place that can get fixed.
Yep.
Which they didn't do. Which is fine.
We didn't know at the time we couldn't get fixed there.
So on the phone with our roadside assistants that we paid money for, once upon a time, by the way, a good chunk of change when we bought the van.
Yeah, we bought the roadside assistance that kind of came with the RV piece of the van.
And it wasn't cheap. And that was not cheap. And so they said, we'll find somebody in the area, blah, blah, blah. 2 hours goes by, I don't hear from them, and I call and they're like,
we're hanging out at the truck stop. Yeah.
Yeah, and they're like, we had to cancel your service. We couldn't find anybody in the area. We're like,
thanks for letting us know.
How about letting us know? Yeah. So we had no idea. So I called AAA, and Hilda's like, there's 2 tow trucks in town. They'll take you in their AAA.
She actually knew one of them, so she picked up the phone and called him, and he's like, I'll stand by for
AAA.
For a phone call.
So we called AAA. AAA was a lifesaver. Thankfully, I have AAA.
Right.
AAA called him. He came and got us and drove us 137 miles to Bend, Oregon, which was the nearest Mercedes dealership.
Yeah, a long drive.
A long drive on a tow truck. Well, we made it. It was fun.
We did.
And
it was all good.
We get to the Mercedes dealer.
And it's Friday? No, it was Thursday?
I don't remember.
It was the weekend before the 4th of July, which was on a Tuesday.
It was late in the afternoon. They were already getting ready to go home. So we dropped off the van.
It was Friday.
They knew we were coming. And they had a loaner car, thankfully. But they said it was going to be almost 2 weeks before they could look at the van.
Look at it. Just even look
inspect
at it.
Yeah. And we're like,
But she did say if they could get us in sooner, they would.
But it wasn't going to be that weekend.
Right.
It was going to be like after the weekend. So.
Fingers were crossed, though.
Loaner car, off to a hotel, and we.
Oh, and they had to take the van to an undisclosed location where customers were not allowed to go. So they had to tow our van from the actual dealership. Yeah. So we're scrambling to get our luggage,
get our stuff out
all of our stuff out. Obviously, we could only take what we could carry. We didn't know how long it was going to be, so I had to ask them to empty the fridge. We had just gone grocery shopping.
Yeah. So they took the van. We're at a hotel.
Yep.
And we're trying to figure out what to do. And so we looked at flights because we're like, well, maybe we just fly back home and come get the van.
Or like you could fly home and I could stay. And, again, still hopeful that it would be a quick.
Because I was supposed to be leaving for the trip to go to Michigan to go do that Jeep coverage, and I can't miss that.
Nope.
And so a flight out to get Uber, flight, everything was going to be pretty expensive.
Like $800.
It was a lot.
And then we had oversized luggage because we were packed to live in a van, not to fly in an airplane.
Plus all camera gear, and I might have been carrying
a firearm,
Second Amendment tool because we do that. So we're like, that's going to be too expensive. Let's just rent a car. We'll just drive home. We'll just book it home.
Rent a car.
There are, or at the time,
not easy.
No rental cars in Bend, Oregon. None. Zero. We called every place online, everything, no rental cars. Within 100 miles, there were no rental cars. Eugene, a bunch of other places, nobody. And I'm like, what is going on? So, we got creative.
Well, you even thought about trains, but
there's no trains, no
buses,
there are no Greyhound buses.
So it wasn't quite a planes, trains, and automobiles episode.
But it was more interesting
yeah.
than that. So
Oh, yeah.
we drove 40 miles south to go pick up a U-Haul van.
A lovely box
Yeah.
truck U-Haul.
Because we could take the U-Haul van and drive that from Bend down to Redding, California, where then we could pick up a proper rental car. So we took the loaner vehicle, went and picked up the U-Haul, then drove all the way back with the
Yep.
U-Haul and the loaner car back to the Mercedes dealer, dropped off the loaner car,
Yep.
grabbed all our gear,
Yep.
drove down to Redding, California.
So we had this box truck, and we were carrying 2 duffel bags in the back of
Yeah.
it, which looks kind of sketchy when you're going
When we
through.
went through the inspections place in California, he opened it up and he's like, "Oh, interesting."
2 duffel bags.
Yeah.
What's in there?
Nothing else. Not like we were moving.
Yeah.
Anyway, we made it to Redding. Made it to the airport there. Picked up our rental car, which just happened to be a Jeep.
A Jeep.
Sort of a Jeep. I mean, it was a Jeep.
It was a Compass,
It was a
but
Jeep.
it was a Jeep.
It was a nice, comfortable car. It's better than the
irony,
U-Haul.
Just the irony of it.
Went and dropped off the U-Haul and drove the rest of the way home. Very
Like-
long night. Just we could have split it, but we're like at this point
We just
we're
wanted
like,
to get home.
Just wanted
and
to get
sleep
home.
in our own bed.
Yeah.
And
So
just be home.
that's
Oh, and don't forget, the temperatures this whole way were like in the 100 and
Oh, yeah.
low hundreds, 100 and teens.
crazy hot.
It was ridiculous.
So that was the breakdown on us getting home.
Yeah.
And I think we've rambled here for a minute.
Yeah,
so let's go
we
get
have.
dinner ready,
Okay.
and then we will tell you more because there's a lot more to this story.
The story does not end.
What a great night.
It was pretty nice.
Beautiful morning. That blue moon last night. That was pretty spectacular.
Yeah, especially with the clouds kind of like framing it.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was nice.
I think one thing too important to mention, guys, is these trips don't have to be these big, grand,
Right.
week-long trips. Sometimes just grab the keys, grab some basics, and
Just go.
head for the hills.
Yeah.
Or the desert.
Whatever's close.
Whatever's close. And this
Yeah.
is close to us, and we
Yeah,
enjoy
an hour
coming
and a
up here.
half away. Yeah.
Yeah, and it's quiet, peaceful.
You can see the stars, something you can't really do at home.
Yeah,
So
just disconnect a little bit. And Rocket's been pretty happy running around.
sniffing, smelling all the smells,
Yeah,
and
yeah.
checking things out.
Okay, so last night we left off with we made it home,
We made it home.
but the van did not.
Nope.
And so let's talk a little bit about that because this is where things get pretty interesting. So
I don't know. I thought the U-Haul was pretty darn
U-Haul was pretty interesting.
Never done that before.
Yeah. So after we got home, it was like 3 days later, and I needed to fly to Michigan. So I was gone doing that, and then trying to correspond with the Mercedes dealership up in Bend, and they weren't in a rush to look at the van.
Nope, not at all.
Not at all. And so that's fine because we were busy and we're like, we just don't have time to go get the van. So if they take a little bit of time or whatever.
Yeah, that was the other thing. How are we going to carve out time? Because you were doing the Jeep thing at the factory, and then we had the Australia trip. We had something else in
Texas.
We went to Maris, Artec.
And then I was in Utah. Yeah, so we had a lot going on. So to figure out when to go pick up the van we were like, we don't even know. So we weren't like bugging them too much about getting the van, but we were trying to get an update.
Better communication would have been nice.
Yeah, and so it was about a month later that I finally got.
Was it really a month?
Yeah, I got a quote from them.
Yep.
The quote to make the repair to the differential, they said basically what they had to do was replace the entire axle. And the total cost of that was going to be $10,700 and change. A lot.
Yeah, a ridiculous
I mean,
amount.
I expected Mercedes-Benz was going to charge me quite a bit. That was a shocker because we're talking about a ring and pinion and they're just going to replace the whole axle. That's what they wanted to do. And oh, by the way, they weren't going to do it under warranty.
Nope.
So we had to pay out of pocket because we were
off-roading.
Our 4x4 Sprinter van. We were on a dirt road and we somehow did damage to it.
What did they tell you about scratches?
Yeah, they were. So they sent us pictures of. It's funny. They sent us pictures of the scratches on the differential, which whatever.
Okay. Yeah.
But then they sent me pictures of the skid plate, which had scratches on it, and I'm like, wait a minute.
Yeah.
Isn't that what that's for? It's a skid plate.
Oh.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Anyway, we could have turned it into this big fight, and it would have just been a lot more stress, and then it would have meant it would have been that much longer
to get
the van back, and so I started looking at other options.
Yeah.
So you can buy a used Sprinter van axle on eBay for about $3,000, and I could have had a couple buddies help me out, and we could have swapped that out, and that would have been fine. But a better option is our good friends at Agile Off-Road did some work with ARB in researching and developing a locker for the Sprinter van. And so I'm like, if we're going to do all this work, why not have Agile do it and install a locker, and we're still saving a massive amount of money.
Yeah.
So my good friend Josh at SoCal Expedition he's been with us on many trips before, and he is a whiz at logistics. He owns a business that runs logistics, and so I worked with him to get the van shipped from Oregon to Santee, California, which is just outside of where we live. That was
why Santee?
That's where Agile Off-Road is. That was a bit of a challenge. I mentioned that getting a rental car out of Bend was difficult. Well, finding a trucking company or a truck driver or somebody that can come pick it up there was difficult. And we actually had...
But Josh came through.
He came
amazing.
through. The first person, though...
Thank you, Josh.
Thank you. Huge thanks to Josh. First person canceled. And that was after it took a little bit to schedule that. And so then it took another week to find somebody else to come get it. And they were able to transport it. And crazy, they did it within like 48 hours. Like they picked it up and it was just instantly in Santee at Agile Off-Road. So then I went down to Agile Off-Road. We went and finally...
got all of our stuff that we'd left behind.
Got all our stuff.
All of my camera gear.
Yeah, lots.
My favorite pair of boots.
Yeah, my drone was still in there. My gimbal was still in there. Just a ton of stuff was still left in the van because we didn't have a choice. But let me tell you, those guys took incredible care of the van. They pulled the entire axle assembly off, removed the ring and pinion, which is all that needed to be done. Mercedes didn't even do that. They basically just said, oh, we need to replace the whole housing.
Yeah, they just wanted to charge us a ton of money to get it done.
Yeah, so Agile, it was a little bit of work because the heat in there had fused some of the bearings in there, and so they had to press it out pretty good. But they got everything disassembled. They pulled it all apart, basically to inspect it, and then they reassembled it with new ring and pinion, and now there is an ARB air locker installed in there, which is going to be awesome for capability. Now that's a little more peace of mind. I mean, the traction control on the van is,
it's a van.
It's a van.
Again.
But now we have a rear locker, and I'll tell you, a rear locker is one of the things you should add to your off-road vehicle if it doesn't already have it, to make it extremely, extremely capable. So we have that now. A whole lot less money than what Mercedes was going to charge us. And then, you know what, while it was there, something that you have been teasing me and the van about for a long time is that she always says that the van looks like it's gone to the gym but forgot to do leg day.
Tiny wheels. I mean, they were just tiny wheels and tires.
They're like
they looked funny.
They're like a 29.8-inch tire that was on there before.
You got this big old van and these itty bitty little tires.
Itty bitty tires.
It looked funny.
It's definitely, the proportions weren't right.
No.
Now, you can go big tires on this. There's people that are running 35s on their van. We're not ready to do that.
He's not ready to do that.
She's like, can we put 37s on there? I'm like, no, we're not going to put 37s on there.
I want it to look beefy.
Yeah. I think it looks really good.
It does look really good.
So we put on the Agile Off-Road has their Overland XD wheels with their rapid tire deflators, and wow,
that was fast.
Holy cow!
I'm like, are you done?
I had to be careful because I was like, oh, this is super fast to deflate.
We're talking like a minute.
Less than that.
Yeah, it's crazy.
But the wheels just look great. They're really aggressive looking. And then we wrap them with some Milestar Patagonia's XD tires, which is kind of their in between a mud terrain and an all-terrain. And these are 3-season rated, so if we get out in the snow, we should be good. And the wheels, I should mention, the wheels and tires are rated for the weight of the van and the pressures that we need to run. So I think we're good with wheels and tires. These are 265 70R17, which is like a 32-inch tire.
Whatever he said.
Yeah. So we're a little bit bigger. Will we go bigger later on? Maybe, but there's some things that we need to do in order for that to happen. But I think there's some other things that we want to do on the van first. Probably more power.
Yeah, yes. I'm like pushing the gas. I'm like, come on, you can do it. You can do it.
You're thinking get horsepower. I was thinking battery power.
Oh, yeah, that too.
Yeah, I think we need a little more battery power.
It's got no giddy up though.
Yeah, horsepower might be a challenge. Battery power we can do.
Okay, that too, yeah.
And then I think, there's some things that we can clean up underneath the van, specifically that little tube that carries the hose that you banged up yesterday.
Me?
But I think there's some things under the van that we can kind of sort out to kind of improve our clearance a little bit. And so there's some stuff we're going to do to the van. But right now we just want to use it, enjoy it, have it home.
Now that we have it home.
Yeah, and be mindful the next time we go out on a trip that, you know what, we'll have to ask ourselves hard, maybe this is a Jeep and a trailer trip next time.
But what we did wasn't, that's the thing. It wasn't hard stuff. It was basically like a forest dirt road with some rocks on it. Not boulders, just rocks.
I think if anybody has a Sprinter van and they're going to be doing off-roading, you need to replace that rear differential cover. And so that's I should mention when they put on the new when they put in the new ring and pinion, they put on their heavy-duty axle cover, which is not going to have that problem. So we got some peace of mind going forward that that's not going to be an issue. We just need to sort out some other things. So, yep.
I mean, what we did yesterday was probably
equally as hard.
Yeah.
Yeah, equally as hard. There were some
Guess
good,
what? There's
some good
no
runs.
diff fluid leaking.
No, we still got to make it home. So.
Jesus, don't do that.
Yeah. Anyway, guys, I think I think now we've shared the story about our Sprinter van, and we'll take this out on some more trips. I think the next trip, though, we're probably going to have the Jeep and the trailer and your Jeep and some good friends with us. So that's to come. But I hope you've enjoyed hearing our story, and I hope you've enjoyed hanging out with us. We've had a great time here at camp.
And hopefully we've given you some things to think about if you have a Sprinter van.
100%. Yep. And look, we shared all of this with our patrons along the way, and so they've known about our trials and tribulations for a while, and we've been checking in with them. And so if you'd like to follow us on Patreon and get some behind the scenes stuff about what we're doing and just help support our adventures, we really appreciate that, and we'd love to get to know you a little bit. We just did a live call with those guys, had a great time. So
and we appreciate them so much.
That.
So thank you.
Yeah, thanks. All right, guys, we're gonna pack up and hit the road, and we'll
give
see.
Rocket a bath.
And give Rocket a
He's
much
so
needed bath.
dirty.
We'll see you guys in the next video.